and CEO of VMV Hypoallergenics. We're here to save the world's skin with the safest, most proven effective care on the planet. June is also Acne Awareness Month. So here's a little sort of quick bite, 6 truths about acne that might surprise you. The first is that acne is an inflammation of the follicle. It's not about having dirty skin or overly oily skin. Those things are relevant, and also using stuff that clogs your pores, because when your pores get clogged, there's a risk of inflammation that can then become infection and acne. But it's an inflammation at the follicle. So acne usually starts as a plugged hair follicle, which is called a comedone. And then sebum production, oil production follows, and it kind of builds up there and becomes this welcoming environment where then microbes grow. And the microbes can be bacteria, but also fungi or something else. And interestingly enough, in the pandemic, we started seeing the something else's quite a bit, and they were a little bit surprising. So, yeah, it's not just bacteria. Once that, so again, plugged hair follicle, sebum production, microbial growth, and then we have that inflammation that happens, and then we see papules, pustules, cysts, sort of the acne that you and I would think about normally. Second major thing that it might be surprising to learn about acne is how often so many other skin conditions are confused for acne and vice versa. Um, there's a condition that's called sweat acne that's actually folliculitis, and it's from Malassezia, which is a fungus that lives naturally and happily in our microbiome, but tends to go a little nuts when we're really sweaty, or in certain environments, like when we were all wearing masks and it was hot and humid, and then it just kind of would, go a little happy, way too happy. That is Malassezia. It used to be called Pityrisporum folliculitis, which is not actually acne. Things like ingrown hair, keratosis pilaris, even an acneiform eruption, which is a kind of irritant reaction, for example, to something applied on the skin, isn't strictly speaking an acne. And especially in the case of something like Malassezia folliculitis, if you treat it like regular acne with an antibacterial, it won't work because it's a fungus. Or keratosis pilaris is actually a dry skin condition. And if you were then to treat it with a lot of acne preparations, tend to remove more sebum, right? More oil, and try to increase the dryness of the skin. That's not going to help the keratosis pilaris, actually. So it is important to try not to guess what you have. And there are some cases, granted they're more rare, but they can be more serious, where something you think is just a pimple, like you cut yourself shaving or something, and it looks like a really big cyst, can actually be a boil, or MRSA, methicillin resistant methicillin resistant Staphylococcus aureus. I normally can say that well, but it's been a week. But there, so if you're in doubt, especially for something that's very inflamed and very tender, have a doctor look at it. Go see a dermatologist. Or if your acne has been really stubborn, it's worth seeing the bumps really stubborn. It's worth seeing a dermatologist. The third thing that might surprise you is how many more things can actually cause acne. It's not just pore cloggers. It's also, believe it or not, like your PPE, your mask, or rough fabric that just rub against you a lot. That can irritate the pore, the follicle, and cause acne. Also an inflammatory lifestyle. Acne is inflammation, right? So if you eat a lot of junk food, inflammatory food, it's not like the oil from the junk food is going to clog up your pore, but you have a lot of inflammation going on in the body. So lack of sleep, junk food, inflammatory foods, yeah, won't help the cause. Can also be hormones. Certainly that's really contributive in our teen years, but also for some adults, some medications are acnegenic. And mites, fungi, your genes, and also allergens. Like people think, because people, a lot of us think that it's really just about clogging the pore, but it isn't. It really is also about irritating the pore. So you can have an allergen, which strictly speaking doesn't clog the pore, but it sure can irritate it. And when it does, then we risk again the development of acne, right? Because of the irritation and inflammation of the pore and possible infection. If you don't identify the cause, it can really continue. The acne just won't go away. Acne at this point, especially if you need internally taken medication, if there are hormonal involvements, if it really is just a contact thing, something that you're using, it's actually rather successful now, acne therapy for the most part. So it is worth really working with your dermatologist to try to figure out what is the cause. It's not just about non-comedogenic. You really have to look for, yes, non-comedogenic, but also non-acnegenic. So that's hypoallergenic, allergen free, irritant free, free of stuff that can irritate the pore, not just clog it. The other thing that might surprise you about acne, there's some stuff still on the internet that talks about comedogenicity tests done on rabbit ear assays, which are quite old. They were done in the 60s and 70s and were rather inconsistent enough so that there was actually an acne symposium by the American Academy of Dermatology. And at the end of it, folks really kind of decided, look at the usage tests, look at human tests. People, in actual use conditions, they're much more accurate. And doctors like Dr. Drelos et al., they really proved there are newer, better methodologies that are more consistent than those old rabbit ear assays. So I would rely on those more than the bunny. There's no need to hurt the little bunnies, especially for acne stuff. The other thing that might be a little surprising is acne. I already mentioned it kind of earlier, but to double down, because it's so hard, and even some doctors can make mistakes and misdiagnose bumps. It is really worth working with a doctor, particularly if the acne is very inflamed or just won't go away and you've tried everything or is very painful, etc. You might even need a culture to make sure what is that bug that is in there that won't go away. And we saw some of that, some really amazing things, Klebsiella, some stuff that you really wouldn't expect these lesions over the pandemic. So it might be really, really worth working with a dermatologist, and one who perhaps is comfortable working with cultures, works with a dermatopathologist so they can look under the microscope and better diagnose what's going on. And certainly one who really looks at all of you. What is your lifestyle? How is the inflammation factor? What else can we do to bring down inflammation? Meditation, better food, et cetera, et cetera. And the last thing of these six that I was sharing today, things that might surprise you about acne, is some of the stuff that everyone says is comedogenic is not actually. Coconut oil, stearic acid, sterile alcohol. That was one of the questions that we got fairly recently. They're not actually comedogenic based on human controlled trials, as opposed to rabbit ear assays, which is where some of their comedogenic stuff comes from. So there, I hope that was helpful. In National Acne Months, I wish you clarity and calm and less inflammation. And certainly let us know if you have any questions about this video or anything else that you'd like us to cover. You can ask us here in the comments on YouTube or on vmvhypoallergenics.com internationally and in the USA, and vmvhypoallergenics.ph in the Philippines, where you can also shop our products when they're in stock. We promise we're working on that. It's been really difficult with the pandemic and all the other supply shortages in the world, but there's nothing more important to us than getting our stocks back out there. It is June, and among the many awareness months in June, which includes skin cancer awareness, so check out our mole mapping video, and mental health awareness. We have so many articles on vmvinskin.com about how mental health benefits skin health and vice versa, and your overall systemic health. And please remember to like us and follow us on social media, Instagram, Facebook, and here on YouTube. And certainly ask me directly at Laura at VMV on Instagram. Have a great day. Here's to clarity. Here's to calm. See you next time.